So you want to know how to measure PR success, right?
Yeah.
Especially these days when everything's changing so fast in the media world.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
Well, we're going to take a deep dive into it today using this really interesting article from Nucleus Media Works. It's called 5 Approaches to Measure PR Campaign Effectiveness. And they published it on Medium just last month.
Oh, cool. So it's really up to date.
Yeah, so we're going way beyond just the basic, vanity metrics and really digging into what actually makes a PR campaign successful.
I like it, getting to the heart of it.
Right. And the article really stresses this idea that PR shouldn't just be about getting your name out there. It's got to deliver actual measurable results,
Yeah.
like impacting the bottom line.
Totally. It's about connecting those PR efforts with those bigger business goals.
Exactly. And they have this great example of a startup that actually landed a deal with Zoho Corporation.
Wow.
All because of a successful sustainability campaign they ran.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did they manage to swing that?
Well, I think it shows how PR, when done right, can open doors to all kinds of business opportunities.
Yeah. It's not just about awareness.
Right. It's about showing that you're committed to something that potential partners care about too. And in this case, the startup's focus on sustainability probably really resonated with Zoho,
Yeah.
They're known for being eco-conscious.
Right. That makes sense. It's like
Wow.
finding common ground.
Exactly. So anyone working in PR, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it for a while, understanding this whole shift, from vanity metrics to actually proving how you're impacting the business.
Yeah. It's crucial these days.
It's essential, right? You've got to show your value.
Absolutely. And that means tying your PR efforts to those tangible business results.
I love how the article uses this Bollywood analogy to explain share of voice.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. They
Yeah.
compared a PR campaign's reach to, like how well a movie does at the box office.
Exactly. It's like, are you KGF or Pathun?
Yeah.
Dominating the conversation.
That's such a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Everyone understands box office numbers.
Right. And in PR, share of voice is basically how much of the conversation your brand owns compared to your competitors.
So she's basically saying, are you the one everyone's talking about, or are you kind of fading into the background?
Yeah. And to know where you stand, you've got to track and analyze your share of voice. There are all these tools out there that can really help you do that.
That's super useful.
Yeah.
Then you can see what's working and what's not.
Right. And then you can, tweak your strategy.
Adjust course. Keep things fresh.
Exactly. And especially in a market like India,
It's so dynamic.
you have to know where you stand compared to the competition.
You got to stay ahead of the game,
And the article goes on to talk about social media engagement.
which is huge these days.
They even use Hardik Pandya's tweets as an example.
Oh, yeah. He's everywhere.
It seems like every time he posts something, everyone's talking about it.
It's crazy. It shows how influential social media can be for PR.
But it's not enough to just, be on these platforms. You have to engage with people in a way that's meaningful.
Make it count.
Yeah. The article talks about using tools like ChatGPT to analyze the sentiment behind social media posts, and also platforms like Sprout Social to see, how viral a campaign is becoming.
Right. You need to understand what people are feeling and how your message is spreading.
Exactly. And it's not always about getting a celebrity to tweet about you.
Sometimes it's simpler than that.
They mentioned this case study where a tech brand actually saw a 200% increase in engagement just by working trending topics into their PR strategy.
Wow, 200%.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
What kind of trending topics?
Well, they specifically mentioned NVIDIA's breakthroughs in AI. I guess they were all over the news.
Yeah, AI is huge right now. Makes sense to tap into that.
Right. It shows that it's important to stay current on what's happening out there and find ways to make it relevant to your brand.
Ride the wave.
Now, they have this really interesting way of talking about sentiment analysis. They call it the Sunita-Williams test.
Oh, I love that. It's so clever.
So think about it. If Sunita Williams had a successful space mission, right? The whole world would be celebrating and praising her.
Everyone would be thrilled.
But if something went wrong, there'd be concern and maybe even criticism.
People would be worried.
And that's kind of how sentiment analysis works. It's about understanding how people are perceiving your brand or your campaign.
Are they feeling good about it?
Yeah.
Or are they expressing negative vibes?
Exactly. And to figure that out, PR pros are using these tools like BrandWatch to analyze, all the media coverage they're getting.
So they can see if it's leaning positive, negative, or neutral.
Right. It's like taking the pulse of public opinion.
Makes sense. You got to know how people are feeling.
And the article gives this great example of a healthcare brand that totally turned around a PR crisis just because they were actively monitoring sentiment and responded to negative feedback quickly.
Wow. So they were on top of it.
Yeah, they took control of the narrative, which is so crucial these days because things can spread so quickly online.
Absolutely. You can't afford to ignore what people are saying.
It's all about being proactive.
Right. Being ready to jump in.
So all of this really emphasizes that PR is way more than just getting your name in the headlines.
It's about so much more.
It's about actively shaping how people perceive your brand.
And building those relationships.
Yeah, building strong relationships with your audience and ultimately influencing how they think and feel about you.
It's about making a real connection.
And that brings us to this whole idea of AI and the future of PR measurement.
Which is super fascinating.
The article really focuses on how tools like DeepSeek AI and ChatGPT are totally changing the game.
I've been hearing so much about those tools.
They're making it possible to do things that we couldn't even imagine a few years ago.
Like the future is here.
Right, like being able to target your audience way more precisely, getting these super deep insights and optimizing your campaigns faster than ever before.
It's mind-blowing.
And the article really stresses that PR professionals need to embrace these new technologies if they want to stay ahead of the curve.
It's not just a trend anymore. It's the reality.
Exactly. And it raises some big questions about, how we can make sure AI is being used ethically and responsibly in PR measurement.
Yeah. We need to think carefully about that.
It's a lot of power. So this article has given us a ton to think about when it comes to measuring success in the world of PR. I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways that are standing out to you so far?
Well, I think the biggest one for me is this shift from just focusing on vanity metrics to really showing how your PR efforts are contributing to the bottom line.
Yeah, I agree with that. Generating buzz just isn't enough anymore.
You've got to be able to demonstrate how your work is making a real impact on the business.
And that means using data analytics, even AI, to measure your impact in a way that actually makes sense.
It's about being strategic data-driven and always looking for ways to innovate and adapt.
I love that. But it's also about remembering that PR is fundamentally about connecting with people, building trust, and telling stories that truly resonate, right?
Absolutely. That human element is key.
So I guess that's a perfect segue into what we'll be exploring next.
Let's do it.
We've talked about how this landscape of PR measurement is evolving.
The ground is shifting.
Now we're going to get into some specific strategies and tactics that can actually help you achieve those real measurable results.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's dive in. So we were talking about, how important it is to show that PR is actually making a difference to a business's bottom line.
Yeah. Not just those fluffy metrics.
Right. But how do you actually do that?
It's a good question.
I mean, it can be tough to measure something that feels kind of intangible sometimes, right?
It can be.
Yeah. The article mentions DeepSeek AI and ChatGPT as tools that can help.
Oh, yeah. I've heard good things about those.
But they also say that, human intuition is still super important.
Of course. You can't replace that.
So how do we find that balance, between using these really powerful tools and still trusting our gut?
Well, I think technology should be seen as a way to enhance our skills, not replace them.
Right. Not take over completely.
Exactly. AI is amazing at crunching numbers and finding those trends that we might miss as humans.
Yeah. It can see the bigger picture sometimes.
Right. But it's up to us to use those insights to craft stories that actually resonate, with real people.
So it's not a battle between AI and humans.
More like a collaboration.
Yeah. We can use AI to become even better storytellers and strategists.
Exactly. And that brings up another important point. We need to know what we want to achieve right from the start.
Yeah, having clear objectives.
Exactly. Like, what's the goal of this PR campaign? Are we trying to boost brand awareness, drive traffic to the website, generate leads, or something else entirely?
Once you know what you're aiming for,
Then you can figure out which metrics will actually help you track your progress.
and then use those AI tools to measure those specific things.
Exactly. And with the right tools and a little bit of creativity, you can measure almost anything these days.
It's pretty amazing what's possible now.
Yeah. The article had that example of the tech brand that saw a 200% increase in engagement just because they were smart about aligning their campaign with what was already trending.
Oh yeah, the NVIDIA thing.
That's a perfect example of being adaptable and responsive. Hopping on a trending topic and making it relevant to your brand.
It's like they say in the article, if SRK's charm isn't tracked, does it even exist?
Love that quote. It's funny, but it makes you think.
It really does. You have to be able to show that your efforts are making a difference.
In a way that people can understand and appreciate.
So what are some things our listeners can do to start measuring their PR success more effectively?
Well, the first step is always going back to those objectives.
Right. making sure those are crystal clear.
What are you actually trying to achieve?
And once you have that vision,
Then you can start to identify those key performance indicators, those KPIs that will help you track your progress.
so it's all about getting specific and figuring out which metrics actually matter,
Exactly. And then it's about choosing the right tools for the job.
which can feel overwhelming sometimes.
It can. There are so many options out there.
It's like stepping into a candy store.
But don't get overwhelmed. The key is to start with the tools that best fit your needs and your budget.
And you don't have to do everything at once.
Right. It's about experimenting.
Yeah.
Trying out different tools and seeing what works best for you.
That's where having a good PR team can really make a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
They can help you navigate all of this, from setting those clear objectives to choosing the right tools and actually making sense of the data.
Because data is only useful if you know what to do with it.
Right. It's all about collaboration, bringing those creative minds together and being willing to try new things.
Embrace the new.
Exactly. And it's amazing how we've gone from Bollywood analogies to AI-powered insights, but it's all connected by this idea of telling stories that make a difference.
And having the data to back those stories up.
Because ultimately that's what matters, showing that your PR efforts are actually having an impact.
Tangible results.
We've covered a lot of ground. The shift from vanity metrics to measurable outcomes, setting clear objectives, the role of AI data analysis, having a strong PR team. Anything else we should be thinking about?
We've laid a great foundation.
Yeah.
But there's one crucial element we haven't really touched on yet. The human element.
Ah, yes. The human element.
We can't forget about the art of storytelling.
That's really at the heart of PR, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that's what we'll dive into next.
Okay, I'm excited.
We'll be talking about crafting those compelling narratives, building relationships with influencers, and measuring the impact of your stories on your audience.
It's amazing how much we can do with data and AI these days.
It really is mind-blowing.
But we can't forget, PR is ultimately about connecting with people.
It always comes back to that human connection,
Right. And that's where storytelling comes in.
the heart and soul of PR.
The article used that great example of the startup that got that deal with Zoho Corporation.
The sustainability campaign.
Yeah, it seems like their story really resonated and opened up a big opportunity.
It shows how a good story can do so much more than just raise awareness.
Right. It can lead to real tangible results.
Because people connect with stories on a much deeper level.
They make us feel something.
Exactly. Stories have that power.
So how do we get better at telling those impactful stories?
Well, first we need to really understand our audience.
Know who we're talking to.
Right. What are their interests, their values, their pain points? What kind of stories are going to resonate with them?
So it's about seeing things from their perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once we understand our audience, then we can start developing stories that speak directly to their needs and aspirations.
Stories that make them care.
Right. And we need to be authentic.
Yeah.
People can tell when something's fake.
They can smell it a mile away.
Our stories have to be genuine and reflect the true values of our brand.
Be real.
And the article also talked about how important it is to be responsive, especially on social media.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different ballgame these days.
Social media is such a vital platform for PR storytelling. It lets us connect with our audience in real time.
Have those back and forth conversations.
Right. We can share our stories, get instant feedback, see what's working, and adjust our approach.
It's a two-way street.
Exactly. It's not just about broadcasting our message. It's about listening, engaging, becoming part of the conversation.
Building relationships.
That's key. And that includes building relationships with influencers.
Yeah. Like the Hardik Pandya effect they mentioned in the article.
When he tweets, people listen.
It's true. He's got a huge following.
That's the power of influencer marketing. When we partner with the right influencers, we can leverage their credibility and their reach to tell our stories to a much wider audience.
But it's not just about finding someone with a ton of followers, right?
No, it's about finding the right fit.
Someone who actually aligns with your brand.
Exactly. We need to build authentic relationships with influencers who genuinely believe in our message and are passionate about sharing it.
So we've talked about crafting those great stories, building relationships, and being engaged in the conversation. But how do we know if it's actually working?
How do we measure the impact of our storytelling?
Yeah. Are we actually moving the needle, making a difference?
Well, we can use sentiment analysis to see how people are responding to our stories.
So are people reacting positively, sharing our content, talking about our brand?
Exactly. And the article talked about that healthcare brand that used sentiment analysis to turn around a PR crisis.
They caught it early.
Right. They saw those negative comments and they were able to address them quickly and effectively.
It saved their reputation.
And we should also be tracking things like website traffic, social media engagement lead generation.
See if people are taking action.
Exactly. The goal of storytelling in PR isn't just to entertain or inform, it's to inspire action.
Make people want to engage with your brand.
So it sounds like PR measurement these days is all about finding that sweet spot between data and creativity.
Using both our heads and our hearts.
We need the human touch to craft those compelling stories, but we also need the insights that data and technology provide.
The best of both worlds.
Using data to inform our storytelling, leveraging AI to enhance our capabilities, and always remembering that the goal is to connect with people on a human level.
And that's what makes PR so fascinating, right?
Absolutely. It's a constantly evolving field, but the power of a good story will always be at its core.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of PR measurement.
It's been a great conversation.
I hope you found it insightful and helpful.
I know I did.
A big thank you to Nucleus Media Works for that thought-provoking article.
It sparked some great discussion.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring this topic.
Don't be afraid to think outside the box when it comes to measuring your PR efforts.
Find those creative ways to assess the real impact of your work.
And remember, it's not just about the numbers, it's about the people. Tell stories that connect, inspire, and make a difference.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep telling your stories.